And the 2025 award for movie with the most cringe goes to A Merry Little Xmas. When I saw that Alicia Silverstone was in a fun little holiday flick, I thought, heck, why not see how dear old Clueless is doing? That's a movie reference, folks, not name-calling. But I was wholly unprepared for the assault on my common sense by the unmitigated barrage of brain death that flew at me from the television screen. You all know that when you get into a Hallmark movie, that there's going to be a specific, predictable order to things. You know it, and you accept it. You're there for the warm fuzzies after all, not that bothersome reality stuff, but my gosh. You don't go into a movie like this with the expectation of necrotizing your brain cells. But before I get into that, how about a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down? The good. Fun illustrations at the beginning of the story. The locals laughing at Kate for explaining how she and Everett aren't divorcing, they are consciously uncoupling, and that they will do so while talking to each other using I feel sentences. Oliver Hudson has the same look in his eyes here as Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones whenever he was looking at his son Tyrion. Kate's evil but happy giggle after neighbor lady shows her the mistaken picture of her ex's new girlfriend. It's true though, we all feel a little giddy when our exes trade down or get fat, let's be honest. Jamila Jamil is always enjoyable and charming, and her tossing in the part about having an ex-boyfriend she called the missile and then trying to cover up for it when she realized her boyfriend's kids were present. I will say, however, that Jamila basically does the same character in all her roles. Despite his very weird behaviors, Nigel actually said the nicest line of the whole story.
I think your biggest fear is that your children will turn out like you. And from where I sit, that's not such a bad thing.
I think we've seen this guy before in The Wrong Paris. Yep, they definitely hired Pearson Fode to be the thirst trap that gets people to watch this movie. Alright, we've covered the positive side of today's feature. Now it's time for me to throw snowballs at it. Snowballs, the color of saffron. The bad. This tiny American town has a disproportionate number of connections to England. Tess, Sienna going to Oxford, Nigel being the British boyfriend who's obsessed with Harry Potter. Kate is described as a handywoman, but the only thing she's shown to do is carry a screwdriver, and she used it once. Kate was shown baking way more often during the film, so maybe it would have made more sense if her character owned a local bakery. The appearance of Melissa Joan Hart was totally wasted. Our girl Sabrina didn't get to do much of anything. And her girl line during her first conversation with Kate, I thought it was going to lead into a joke or something, or maybe be used to establish her character as someone who is awkward during conversation. But nope, it was just a weird, randomly drawn out word.
Girl, you are asking me to be selfless, which is a big ask. Girl.
I don't know. Nigel the Brit, who's extremely into Harry Potter, just didn't land overall, and his chemistry with Sienna was pretty much non-existent. If we hadn't been told they were a couple, we might never have known it. I actually enjoyed Kate's interactions with Nigel more. And why does he kiss Everett's neck and hold on to Chet for way too long? I don't know. I'm starting to think Nigel has other stuff going on. Daryl having a high-pitched girly scream seemed like a shallow stereotype being used to make him more gay. It wasn't necessary. I think everyone calling him and Mike the grandpas accomplished that well enough. Kate storming into a medical appointment where a patient is wearing no pants is a good way to get sued. Also, the patient didn't even act that startled by the situation, which was weird. Even in a town where everybody knows each other, being caught with your pants down still causes embarrassment. Why didn't we ever get an explanation for how the neighbor lady got it so terribly wrong when she looked up Everett's new girlfriend? Did anyone else notice that the little titles that show the passage of time are pretty much the same font as The Simpsons? I like the snowball effect though. This Santa beard is a mop. Chet is a man of multiple talents, is crazy fit, young, and immediately into Kate, who has to be in her late 40s or 50s. The most likely explanation for Chet's attraction to a cougar and his people-pleasing can be summed up in 2 words: mommy issues. Nigel's fire thingy looks very CGI. Kate tries to use Chet to make Everett jealous by making him bounce his pecs. It would have been more funny if his jacket didn't cover everything. Kate feels like she doesn't have to run anything by Everett, and she says so only seconds after getting mad at him for buying the kids some new clothes without running it by her. Hypocrisy? Thy name is Kate.
Kate. No one likes cinnamon toothpaste.
I like cinnamon toothpaste, thank you very much.
I actually have that exact same outfit.
Why would Chet own the same gingerbread outfit as Daryl? How does Chet not know any pop culture references because he's dumb, but at the same time he is so smart that he excels at a wide variety of skilled labor? Later, he's so dumb that he takes off all his clothes because he wants to use them to put out a fire, but he fails. He took off everything but only used the pants, making the removal of the top unnecessary. I know they just wanted to show off his physique, but that's not the point. Or maybe it is the point. The writers never decided whether this character was smart or dumb. For example, they showed him being sensitive to Everett's issues and talking him through it. But then, he doesn't have the sense to not go too far with the making the other couple jealous act, and is cringy weird. Although, Kate's first giggle when he started was hilarious. And I realized something else. Kate invited Chet to all her personal family get-togethers when they just barely met, and he was all in? Ah well, I guess she needed the emotional support. Why does Alicia Silverstone's mouth move like that? Do you guys see it? There's some kind of a side-to-side movement that is hard to define. Also, those front teeth are inverted. Sorry, but when you've worked in dental, you notice these things sometimes. The ugly. The first time I watched A Merry Little Xmas, it was all I could do to get through it. I was hyper-focused and noticed all kinds of stupid things. When I went through it the second time, it wasn't quite as difficult to swallow. I started allowing myself to catch the feeling that they were trying to convey. And you know what I found? More plot holes and inconsistencies that I could exploit. Sorry folks, there's no putting lipstick on this pig. Not only does this script insult your intelligence, it must have been written by someone who is not paying attention to cultural trends. The United States, at large, has shown that it has had quite enough of the woke garbage of the last 10 to 15 years, or arguably further back than that. I'd like to know who thought it was a good idea to make the male protagonist have two dads, and then makes a joke like,
Oh, what did you do to him last night?
Can you writers not feel how absolutely cringy a line like that is, coming from these guys' own son? Would any of you say something like that to your parents? Also, who is Everett's mom, and why isn't her absence explained? Is Everett adopted or a surrogate? Because the last time anyone checked, two men can't make a baby. Tossing all this in there without explanation just raised a bunch of distracting questions in my mind while I was trying to pay attention to the story. The next expired topic was environmentalism. It was thin, but still delivered by Kate. Composting? Great. Practical. Buying used clothing? Very thrifty and sensible. However, things are landing a little differently with the audiences these days after Bill Gates shrugged and said to the world, you know that climate change thing? Yeah, not actually a big deal like we said, for years, and pushed to get legislation for, and tossed taxpayer money to sketchy companies for, and lectured the public about, accusing them of selfish wrongdoing. So yeah, the last thing the public wants to hear about right now in a struggling economy, with the threat of AI taking all our jobs in the near future, is a character in a Hallmark movie telling us about saving the planet. We come to a movie like this to escape from harsh reality. So again, the themes running through this movie are very late to the societal party. It's like making a movie that's fueled by 1980s nostalgia, only to find that everyone has already moved on and lost interest in that particular decade. I'm looking at you, Wonder Woman 1984. I took your favorite movie and I spoiled it. It's what movie critics of discernment are born to do.
It's in their little bunny natures, and you can't change that, can you?
No.